This is the worst ever asylum seeker crime case in Britain. The Abedi family were granted asylum after they left Libya. They moved to Fallowfield in Manchester. Salman Abedi had travelled back and forth to Libya to fight against Gaddafi. It is believed he then joined ISIS. He made a bomb and detonated it in Manchester Arena, which was full of kids attending an Ariana Grande concert. 22 people died, 1,017 others were injured. So 2 days later, his father, Ramadan Abedi, appeared on the media saying that his son didn't do it and that this was some kind of security services plot to demonise young Libyan men.
أعتقد أن سلمان لا يفعل هذا العمل بل هناك أيدي خفية من وراء هذا العمل أجهزة أمنية لفعل شيء في الجالية الليبية بالذات خاصة فئة الشباب اللي هناك.
So for those listening on radio, that was the father of the Manchester Arena bomber saying that he believes his son was stitched up and he was in fact an innocent man. Then it emerged that one of his brothers, Hashem Abedi, helped to build the bomb. So Hashem was sentenced to life in prison. He then attacked prison guards in Belmarsh and was moved to a supposedly more secure unit at HMP Frankland. Well, over the weekend, he is alleged to have attacked prison guards, again, using what we believe, anyway, was boiling hot melted butter and makeshift knives. How was he allowed access to weapons in the kitchen? He was convicted of 22 murders. He's a terrorist. He's offended behind bars before. How was that allowed? Well, could it be because of this? Reports came out today that Islamist gangs are now running Britain's prisons, using violence and threats to overpower high-security facilities. The authorities are apparently unable to stop them. But believe it or not, this gets worse, because there is another brother, another Abedi. He's called Ishmael. Now, Ishmael was due to give evidence at the Manchester Arena inquiry, but then it turned out that we'd just lost him. Yeah, that's right, he fled the country. No idea where he is, gone. Where are his parents now? Well, it appears that Ramadan and Samia Abedi have just moved back to Libya. Yeah, the same country that they sought asylum from. And the icing on top of this particular cake is that we were paying their benefits the whole time, that they were in Britain, it seems. We paid £17,000 to the mother of the Manchester Arena bomber in benefits after she'd left Britain, and it was her debit card, reportedly, that was used to help buy ingredients for the bomb. So essentially, British taxpayers paid for the bomb. Yeah.
Us blokes hate talking about a little thinning up top, and many of us settle with that balding look, but that wasn't for me, and that's why I went to Elite Hair, the world's leading hair loss clinic, and now I've had over 4,000 new hairs added to this barnet, and very soon I'm going to be rocking some brand new flowing locks, and you can too. So how does it work? Step 1, I sent the team a set of photos of my head. Step 2, I then spoke to one of the Elite Hair staff who looked through my photo submissions and worked out a treatment plan for me. Step 3, Elite Hair then organised accommodation and the treatment. I was at their state-of-the-art treatment centre in Istanbul, and their incredibly kind staff took me through the process, and before I knew it, I was in surgery. Elite Hair and their leading medical experts have specialised in pain-free treatments using the Sleep Deep method, and they really mean that. I felt incredibly relaxed the whole time, and I haven't felt any pain since. Check out Elite Hair using the link in the description. When you do, Elite Hair will provide you with a free personalised hair analysis. Then you'll join over 100,000 happy patients. Hit that link and start your hair growth journey like I did today.
Well, joining me now is a very brave and heroic survivor and eyewitness of the Manchester Arena bombing. It's Jay Clough. Jay, thank you very much. It's tremendous to have you on the show, and I do really appreciate you coming on to talk about what must have been clearly the most traumatic experience that anyone can ever go through. So thank you for doing that. How do you feel about the reports that Hashem Abedi, the man who helped build that bomb, is behind bars and clearly has some privileges behind bars as well?
It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable that he can commit these crimes and then go to trial, get found guilty of all these murders, go to prison, attack someone, you know, a couple of years ago, and still be able to have the freedom and the privileges to do it again. To continue to hurt and maim people. It's unbelievable.
And a lot of people are asking, you know, why on earth is this guy even in the country? You know, I mean, he's obviously of Libyan descent. He clearly had no problem going back to Libya at some point. His mum and dad seem to be in Libya. I mean, you know, how do you feel about that? Do you think that maybe he shouldn't really be in Britain?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I know that he shouldn't be able to just go into a prison and make friends and potentially all rile each other up. He should be in some sort of solitary confinement where he's not got access to anyone or anything at the very least.
Is that how you would like to see this guy treated, which is essentially, locked in solitary confinement, no privileges, no TV, just kind of a dark room for the rest of his life?
Yeah. I mean, when the trial was happening, obviously, he was the brother of Hashem Abedi. And, you know, you just didn't know what was going on. Now, he keeps on over and over again, proving like his true colours, keeps on hurting people. He's obviously evil to the core. And he just shouldn't be allowed to have any kind of privileges. He's stolen other people's human rights. Why should he be allowed any?
Could I just ask you if it's okay to just describe your experiences of that night, because you were caught up in that fateful night at the Manchester Arena at that concert. I believe that you were injured there, and obviously you must have seen some horrendous things. If it's okay, would you mind explaining that to our viewers and listeners, please?
Yeah, I mean, I took my nephew for his birthday, and we went out onto the concourse after Ariana finished singing Dangerous Woman. We went out onto the concourse. Everyone was, buzzing and happy, and there was kids running around with lights on their heads and things like that. And then went into the foyer, and all of a sudden everything just went white and then orange, and then you just flew. Like you just felt this force against you, and you had no idea what was going on. For a minute, I mean, it might sound a bit silly, but for a minute, I couldn't comprehend that it had come from inside the same room. I didn't even realise that I was, quite badly injured until I got outside, until my nephew carried me out. But yeah, I couldn't comprehend that it come from in the room. And actually, I thought it might have been like a nuclear thing, and we was getting some sort of like aftershock. I didn't know what it was. So the room was just filled with smoke. It was just horrendous.
And it has had lasting effects on you, hasn't it, Jade? I think it has had lasting effects on you. I think there's obviously some kind of trauma there that must have stayed with you, and the injuries as well. Yeah.
I was in physio for about 18 months afterwards. I was in a wheelchair at first, not for very long, but it severed the ligaments and the tendons in my leg, and damaged the nerves and stuff in my foot. So it was leg injury.
And what we subsequently found out about this bomb is that it wasn't just a bomb, as you say, but it was also, they'd packed it full of all sorts to make it worse. They'd put a load of nails in there, they'd put a load of bolts and everything in there. Everything you could possibly think of to try to inflict the maximum amount of damage and pain and suffering to what was, and they must have known this, an arena that was full of, men and women, but also kids. Children. Yeah. And
Ariana Grande, I mean, she's literally predominantly aimed at children, at teenagers. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew exactly what the target was, and so did his brother. They both knew, and they did that on purpose. I mean, Take That played there the week before. In fact, a few nights before. Do you know what I mean? They didn't target that one. Obviously, I'm glad that nothing happened there, but they chose that one to target because of the audience.
Yeah, and then to, after all of this, think that you find more out then about the people who committed this. Obviously, Salman's dead, and then you've got, his father is coming out in the press a couple of days later saying he doesn't believe his son could do any of this stuff. Oh no, he's a good student, he's a nice boy. That must have been pretty galling for you. And then more comes out, doesn't it? You've got Hashem here, who doesn't appear to show any remorse whatsoever, and is able to carry on in some way, shape or form, enjoying his life. I mean, in an ideal world, I know you spoke about solitary confinement and things like that, and I don't want to drag you down a route you might be uncomfortable with here, but I mean, I don't know, I mean, part of me thinks we should bring back the death penalty for some of these people, Jade.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I just know that in this country, as it is now, we do have prisoners in this country that are in absolute solitary confinement. Why is he not there as well? It's doable. It's something that happens in this country on, extreme occasions. This is an extreme occasion. He keeps... How many prison guards does he have to hurt? Does he have to kill someone?
Yeah. It beggars belief. It beggars belief. Do you feel as though you've had justice or other victims and survivors have had any real justice, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that that's really possible. Because obviously the guy who detonated, the creature that detonated the bomb is obviously dead. And although he got Hashem Abedi, he got a 55-year sentence, I mean, that it doesn't really... No, not really.
It's almost
especially
impossible.
Knowing that he can go out into the actual kitchens and things like that and do these things, it'd be a bit more justice if he was actually not able to do these things and not able to hurt people, not able to potentially radicalise people.
I think most people will be of the view that his life should be as miserable as possible behind bars. So, we don't have the death penalty in this country. We don't have things like that. So we have to deal with the reality that we've got, which is that he's in prison. I would just hate to be in a position where you think that Hashem Abedi might ever be able to smile again or to be able to have any enjoyment from life, whether that's reading a book or watching a movie or communicating with other, and let's be honest with you, like-minded people, because unfortunately we have other Hashem Abedis that are locked up behind bars. But, I just find... can I just ask, what would your message be now to, the Justice Minister or the Home Secretary or whoever, people that are in positions of power, the Prime Minister, about what to do with Hashem Abedi going forward? Because there's going to have to be a conversation about this. And I think that people like yourself who have been, survivors of the bomb that he created, what would you want to see done? If you could just address the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, the Justice Minister now, what would you say, Jade?
I would just want them to do something that ensures that he's not going to be able to hurt anybody else.
Yeah.
Whatever that needs to be. I don't know what that needs to be, what, exact measures they need to take, but they need to do something so that he's not capable of hurting anybody else. So he hasn't got access to kitchens and to make hot oil and to make homemade weapons. It's insane that this is going on.
Yeah. It just seems to me as though there's a massive soft touch at play here. Jade, I'd like to thank you again for coming on, for talking about it, and really I think making the whole thing real for people as well. So thank you very much. It's Jade Clough there, who was a survivor and an eyewitness to the Manchester Arena bombing. Now, I will just stress that in the case of Hashem Abedi and the latest incident that is alleged to have taken place in prison, attacking prison guards, it is alleged. He's not been charged with anything yet, so we'll have to wait and see, obviously, as that progresses. But I do want to get the thoughts of my panel. So we've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We've also got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth. We've got former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, you'll have listened there to what Jade had to say, and obviously you'll be across this particular case now. I mean, Hashem Abedi, but I felt the Abedi family, I want to broaden it out a bit. This Abedi family came over here as asylum seekers. You've got at least 2 terrorist masterminds there. I think it's fair enough to say that the parents are quivering on the edge of at least being terrorist sympathisers. You've also got a brother who's just done one and we've managed to let leave the country. I mean, is this the worst case of asylum seekers ever in Britain, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the terrorists in our jails now, we're building these very special separation units for them where they have these self-cook kitchens. They're getting the most absurd privileges. They're living with each other. I think there's 10 per unit. So it's almost like they're in a little self-catering holiday, really. They're wandering around cooking for themselves, having fun together. And this guy, you see film of him smiling, whatever. This is not what it's... If you were a terrorist, you should be in solitary confinement treatment 23 hours a day. The problem is we have a prisons minister who doesn't think anyone should be in jail. We have a justice system that gives preferential treatment to ethnic minorities. We have a government that the minute you say the word Islam or Muslim, they start quivering and they start to try and appease them. We have prison governors who are actually frightened of Islamist terrorists. The bloke in charge of this one, he was called Darren Finlay. He should be fired immediately. He must have known what was going on in that separation unit. He knew that was some of the most dangerous criminals in the country, and yet he had them just living on their own.
All right.
Ridiculous.
Well, I'll just say, again, obviously that chap is not here to defend himself, so it remains to be seen what he would make of that.
But all the terrorists in jail are living like they're in a holiday.
I'll come to you on this, Jake. I mean, this is just, again, you know, talk about repaying Britain. You know, you've got people here who were absolute, you know, creatures, as Jay described them there. We British taxpayers essentially paid for the bomb.
Well, I mean, if those figures that you say earlier are correct about the debit card of the mother who was in receipt of British benefits, it's clear that they did. But let's not also forget how extraordinarily generous Britain was towards Libya. It supported those who rose up against Colonel Gaddafi with UK forces. OK, it was airstrikes, but obviously people putting themselves, British service personnel putting themselves in harm's way. Then there was a huge amount of money that went into the country to reconstruct it and rebuild it, in many cases unsuccessfully, I'm sorry to say. But, you know, these Libyan families who've been given the opportunity of a new life in Britain, you think they'd be hugely grateful towards Britain and the British people.
How many more are there?
Well, that's
you know, if you go and knock on the door of a lot of these people, if you strap them down to a lie detector test, you know, I'd be.
Well, so
how
this
many
is the
of them
great
are there have
challenge
these views
of this uncontrolled illegal migration we have into this country. We don't know who's coming. Most of them are Muslim men. Most of them are of a similar age of these terrorists. We know nothing about them. They destroy all their papers. What are we building into British society? These two individuals planned, they've been convicted for it, to murder young girls and young children at a pop concert in Britain.
Yeah.
What are we storing up for ourselves
and
in the
gall
future?
of that father to come out later on and say, oh, he was doing well at school, I spoke to him a few days ago, he wasn't a member of a particular group. Absolute baloney, and it makes me sick. But Benjamin, I know you were from a similar area, so I went to my first ever concert was at that particular arena.
As was mine.
Yeah, there you go.
I was Steps.
Same. Right, we were probably out this. Well, that's weird. I appreciate this isn't the main point at hand here, but the overarching point is that we know it. Well, I don't know about you, but it really. I mean, I really felt it when that happened. Not just because of the human cost, but because we'd been in that arena, we've been in there, and just to see the extent to which now, you know, this chap is, well, this guy is in prison, you know, with any kind of enjoyment. I don't know where you're at on the death penalty, but does this make you question it?
Well, what I was going to say, much like your point, you know, being from Manchester, and my sister has, at the time, she had little girls. And so, to this day, anywhere in Manchester, when you see the bee that became the symbol of hope for Mancunians, you still feel it.
Yeah.
And so, just like the victim Jade that just spoke there, the horror of this lives on. And the idea that one of the people that put this horror on could still be attacking people, that he's not got the most acute form of punishment that we have to be in solitary confinement, is an insult to those people. And I'm sure the people of Manchester will be beyond horrified by the allegation.
If we're not going to kill him and we're not going to deport him, then we should be, in my view, should just be as miserable as possible.
But we have a system, don't we, where we don't believe in punishing people because we think it's degrading. For people like this, it should be degrading. They should live a hellish life in prison, and yet they're not. They're wandering around in secure units on their own, which
but also, really concerningly, it points to how the government has lost control of jails to Islamist gangs. Look at the case of Tommy Robinson, an appalling individual, not someone I agree with. He is locked in solitary confinement because the government says we cannot keep you safe from Islamist gangs in prison. That tells us all that is wrong. The government has lost control. They need to get a grip and they need to stop these gangs ruling prisons.
Can I just as well, these separation units where...
So we've got to go. Sorry, we're way over, I'm afraid. Sorry about that, but we obviously could have carried it on for a lot longer. Apologies. But anyway,